Hello, I am Wanderer001 and this is my review of Wyze Bulb. As you may know, Wyze has several products out now, from cameras to smart plugs to sensors to bulbs. And it keeps rolling around on me. But this is a review of their Wyze Bulb. Now, you can pick this up as a single unit, or the more common is the 4-pack that they sell. Now, a lot of the references that I'm going to be making are to a TP-Link smart bulb review over there and bulb actually here, because this is the first smart bulb that I ever got, and well, obviously it's what I would be comparing a new product to. As you can see, the Wyze Bulb is slightly smaller in design than the TP-Link. Now, this is an older TP-Link model. They do have these smaller, newer, but this is this particular model, and that's what my reference points are. So with this particular bulb, just like that TP-Link bulb, this is strictly a white light. You are not going to have colors with this light bulb. You are looking at, and I'm going to throw some information out there, not everybody's going to find it useful, temperature range of 2700 Kelvin to 6500 Kelvin, so that's going to be your brightness and your white. The base style is E26, so what that means is this is just a regular light bulb base, so that screws right in. This is meant to be an indoor bulb only. It's supposed to last 20,000 hours. Obviously, I can't check for 20,000 hours as of yet. It is a 60 watt equivalent, which is supposed to use 9.5 watts of power max. Now, I did do a lot of testing for power usage because, well, that's something that I am very concerned with any new product that I get. So here's what we're looking at. Idling, meaning that the bulb is plugged in and not on. It's a smart bulb, so it's connected to Wi-Fi. It is connected, so you can do all those smart things with it. It uses negligible amounts of power. I checked, nothing. If you have the bulb on at its brightest setting and turned up to 100%, because this is a dimmable bulb, it uses 8.9 watts. Now, compared to that TP-Link bulb, that used 11.5 watts, so much, much less. 50%, 4.2 watts. Comparison, TP-Link, 6 watts. And all the way down to 1%, this uses 1.2, this used 8. So the 1% is actually where the TP-Link does better. The rest, all the Wyze Bulb. Now, the bulb construction itself is kind of what you expect from a bulb. Now, it does have some heft in comparison to a regular bulb. That's mainly because of this portion here. This is where the brains are. This is where your heat sink is, so it's going to dissipate the heat just like any other LED bulb. I will say that it does get kind of warm. It's not terribly warm. So, you know, just like any other LED bulb, you touch it, it might be a little warm, so don't touch that if it's been on for a long time. At the top here, you've got a plastic dome. You have LED diodes. In some of the other light bulbs that I had, they kind of have a stem and they poke up that way. This one, all the LEDs are around this ring here and fire up. You do still get decent coverage. This disperses the light quite nicely. Now, coming around to the back here, you just have, you know, directions, and there's a QR code there that I'm hiding at the moment. Being that this is a smart bulb, that means that there is a setup process to it. So the question is, how easy is it to set something like this up? Well, let's take a look. Wyze Smart Bulb setup. So we're gonna come up here and select add a device. So we're gonna add a product. We are going to select a Wyze Bulb. All right, so we gotta make sure we're on our 2.4 gigahertz network, and then you power cycle the bulb on and off 3 times in order to connect or to enter into pairing mode. So we're gonna jump to our 2.4 gigahertz. We're gonna put our bulb in here. So I did not actually need to power cycle the light. You can see it's already pulsing. So we're gonna hit next. That's my Wi-Fi network for my IoT. Now the bulb itself is emitting its own Wi-Fi network, which it wants me to go onto. So it might be a little hard to see with the pulsing, but there it is. Might be hard to see with the pulsing, but it is there. I am going to select it. And it is connecting, and here we got our timer. So let's see how well this does to connect to the network. Well, it stopped pulsing, so I'm going to say, oh, look at that. Already done. Perfect. Device name, Basement Light 2. Okay. Successfully added. Finish setup. Oh, and there we go. We got another badge. Still don't know where those badges go. And just like before, always adds it to the top. And we'll just test it. All right, so it does a slow turn off. So it's not an instant, it fades in and out. Not bad, okay. There we go, that was setup. Now I will say I went to go set up a second bulb and it did not start pulsing automatically. So we're gonna just walk through this one as well. We're gonna power cycle it. 1, 2, 3. All right, and there we go. That's exactly what the other bulb did right away. So we're gonna hit next. That's our IoT. It's transmitting its own network. We're selecting it. And it's connecting. Light bulb has stopped, which means it's connected, so it's just gonna finish up over here. And there we go. That one's done. Basement Light 3. And there we go. So, 2 different styles of setup. One having to actually cycle the light on and off, and another not having to cycle it. So, as you saw, not terrible to set up. Really just plop it in, wait for it to blink. If it doesn't blink, just cycle on and off, and you're good to go. Now, I will say that the Wyze bulbs are compatible with Google Home, Amazon Echo devices, and IFTTT. I will say, and I'll demonstrate a little later, when used with Amazon, just like the plug, I found that there is a considerable, well, not considerable, a noticeable delay in voice command execution, as opposed to when you use Google, the voice command and execution. It's rather timely. When using the app, it's really, you know, there's no lag at all. It's just, for whatever reason, the way the Amazon skill is designed, I can't tell if it's on the Wyze end or on Amazon's end. There just needs to be a little tightening up of that, and you won't have any problems there. Now, because this is a smart bulb, a lot of where the magic actually happens is the application itself. You can dim it there, you can change the color temperature there, you can create groups. So if you've got that 4-pack, you can do some interesting things with that. I will say that Wyze does say not to use this with dimmer switches. You need to use the application, or you need to use your voice assistant to tell X percentage of, 50% brightness, 25% brightness. So it's a small caveat, but let's check out what you can do with the actual application. What we're looking at here is the Wyze application. There are several things going on here, mainly because, well, I have a lot of Wyze devices. We're gonna scroll down here to the single Wyze bulb, and yes, I know that's spelled wrong, but it's okay. It's easier for the voice assistant to pick up. From here, you can turn on and off your bulb, and you could probably tell that it's getting brighter over there because I have the light right there. So toggling it on and off, you can see it's rather quick to respond, but we can select the bulb itself and play with things. So this stuff, in order to actually see what we're doing, we have to turn it on. And then from here, we can control the color temperature. Now, this will be difficult to see, so when I show you the grouping later, we'll take a look at that. So also, we can change the color temperature. That might be a little easier to see off camera just there. In the upper left-hand corner here, you have timers. So you can have it turn on or off after a specific amount of time. So if we wanted to turn it off after being on for 2 hours, we would do this and hit start, or we can say on So turn light on after 2 hours. So if the light is in the off position, it would turn itself on in 2 hours. Now we're not going to do that. Obviously you saw me playing with the toggle there for on off. Now I'm going to do two things. I'm going to push this here and push this here because adding a scene requires that you set up a scene. So you are setting a specific color temperature and brightness, and we're going to say add scene, and we are going to say test. And then hit save. What that'll do is if I go over here and turn everything up, selecting test will lower all the things back to my preset. Now you can have several scenes set up. Now the one thing is when you tap on scene, it just automatically triggers the scene. Pressing and holding will allow you to edit the scene name, but you can't delete the scene from this screen. We have to come up here to this sprocket, which will then bring us to a more in-depth menu. First being, we have Wyze Bulb, so that's the name. We can edit the name there. We can turn on or off vacation mode from here. So in vacation mode, what will happen is the light will turn itself on and off, mimicking you being home. Now, the one thing that I have found with Wyze and their implementation of this is that they do not allow you to adjust time frame as to when that on-off happens. They choose for you. So down here we have scenes. Here we have one scene. So here is my test scene. This is either where you can update it, but again, that's just the name, or you can delete it. So we come over here, press on the minus sign. Do we want to delete? Yes. And then we're going to go back. As you can see, it does take a little bit for it to register the fact that that scene is no longer there. Share device, clicking on that will allow you to share this device, just like the camera, with an authorized user. You have to share with user, you come down here and select their email address. They will need a Wyze account because they need to have access to the app. Coming back, schedule and automation. Now, this is one of the things that Wyze does very well. You can schedule automation. So what that means is I can set a specific day and time that the light bulb turns off, and then a specific day and time that the light bulb turns on. Now, this is kind of like, I won't say vacation mode, but this is like scheduling because that's what this is. So we would come up here and press plus, and we can say add a shortcut, which would add a shortcut to this area here or at the top of the Wyze application. We're not going to necessarily add a shortcut. We can do a schedule, or we can add device trigger. So if you happen to have a Wyze Sense or a Wyze Motion, you can set it so that if it senses motion or the sense is triggered, the light will come on. In this case, I'm going to show you what the schedule would look like. So we would come in here, we would select one of these. So here we've got a grouping, which again, we'll show you later. But right now we're just going to say Wyze Bulb. We want to turn it on, select the brightness. So current setting, soft white, white. You can come through here and select exactly what you would like. So we'll say cool white. So we want turn on as opposed to turn off. So that was us playing with turn on. Then we can come down here and select turn off. Oop. Turn on and then go next. Or you can do turn off and go next. So we're just gonna leave it on turn on, select next. And then you would say turn on Wyze Bulb at, and then you specify a time, and then you can add an end time as well, which means that after this time period, it would turn itself off, and then you hit done. And what that will do is that adds a new rule that will trigger that particular bulb. Now, if I come up here, device triggers, as we were talking about before, if you have a sense or a motion, you can add a device trigger or you can add an action. So if we come down to add an action, we will say workshop, and you can select turns on, detects motion, blah, blah, blah. So that'll be very similar to the add device trigger, meaning here's the movement, it detects movement, becomes clear, and we go next. And then we can add an action, which would then be the Wyze Bulb will turn itself off. And then we hit save, and that will add another rule, and we're just going to discard, to this laundry list that I have here. A lot of these are pertaining to my Wyze cameras. I do have a few for the Wyze Sense and Wyze Motion. Coming back, that was schedules and automation. Device info, will show you a lot of sensitive information, but it will let you know the network strength and all that fun stuff. Checking for firmware update, you click on that, and you can check and see if your firmware is up to date or not. And you can also remove the device from here. And we're going to go back. So that is all that we can do with the Wyze bulb. Now, coming down to the group, which you can see I accidentally turned on, so we're just going to turn that off, because Wyze bulbs is the group that I created. So here you can see if you have a group set up, you can turn on and off the group, have that scheduled just like we did before. We can turn these on to 100%, and you'll notice down here each of these changes in kind. So daylight 100%, white light 100%, back up there. We'll change that to 50% and then back up. If you needed to, in a group, you can toggle on and off individual ones. You can also change the colors of just this particular bulb in the group. And then this is just bringing up the larger view of the group. If we were to select settings for the group, you have the name of the group, you have bulbs in this group, you can turn that vacation mode on or off. Scenes, just like before, if you needed to set up a scene for this grouping, you could do that. Well, you could do that back here too, but this was if you needed to edit the scenes. And then schedules and automation, as well as deleting the group. Now, I will say with the groups itself, the group name Wyze Bulbs is not picked up by your Amazon Echo devices or your Google Home devices. You do need to set up individual groups within those in order for the group to work correctly. It doesn't just automatically pick it up from the Wyze app, which is, I don't want to say disconcerting, but it's a little, I wish it would have. But that is everything that you can do with your Wyze bulbs in the Wyze application. So there you could do some interesting things with the application itself. I know, not terribly visual, it's a little hard to film this and have the bulb do something while you're showing the app. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go into my basement, I'm gonna show you a grouping that I have, and I'll mess with the color change and all that so you kind of get an idea of what that looks like. All right, so pardon the mess, still in the moving process, and wood paneling in the basement, super fun. So mainly the reason I wanted to group several lights and then over there is because, well, there's no actual light switch down here that's accessible. There's one at the top of the stairs that turns on a light at the top of the stairs, but this is the main basement area, and I wanted light down here, but I didn't want to have to go and walk over to each individual light and turn it on. Also, there's a hallway light down that way for my washer, but you have to walk past the washer in the dark in order to turn that light switch on. So being able to set these up in a group, and by group I mean, here we go, we'll bring in this application right here, and we will say there's my group, Wyze off. There you go, they're all off. All right, then we're gonna come over here and say turn them on. And you can see there is a little delay in how it sends the command out. Now, the one thing I did forget to show you, and then we're gonna bring this into focus here, is in the application I did neglect to show you how to add another device. So here we go, that's my basement light that I was showing on camera. We're gonna add that to the group and then hit save. And now it's added to this group. Now, the other thing that you can do is, as I said, use the Echo to trigger this. Now, warning in advance, Echo command coming in. So, Alexa, turn off basement. And you could see that took a little more time to do. And the light bulb over there, which I can't show you at the moment because it's super dark in that corner, did not turn off with the rest of the group because this Wyze group is not the same as the group that was set up in the Echo. So, Alexa, turn on basement. So you can see it fades it in and fades it out, and it does take a little longer in order for that to trigger. It's not terrible, but just something that you should be aware of. All right, so here's an example of the color temperature. Right now I have it on cool white, and we're just gonna half it down to daylight, and then all the way down to soft white. And from soft white, we're gonna bounce it all the way back up to cool white. just so you get an idea. You kind of saw there is a little delay when doing it in a grouping. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to change the color of this bulb here, and you can compare it to this one over here, which is in its cool white state. So warm white, that one compared to cool, and then all the way down to the soft white. So you can kind of see a comparison. It definitely has a more yellow tinge to it. In fact, I'm going to turn that one off over there to make it a little better. You can see the cool to the warm, and again, I'll bring it halfway back up. So that's more of a daylight, and then back all the way up to cool, just so you kind of see what the temperature difference looks like. So hopefully that gave you an idea of some of the things that you can do group-wise, see the color temperature, see the fade on and fade off. Now, what I will say, and something that I don't ordinarily think of with light bulbs, but because these are smart light bulbs, what happens when the power is lost and then power is restored? Well, if you've seen any of my smart plugs, I generally check and see what happens. Well, with your Wyze bulbs here, if the power is lost and the bulb is on, it will return to an on state. If the bulb is off and power is lost, it returns to an on state. So it will always return to an on state. That's both good and bad. If it's the middle of the night and power is lost, well, you want to be able to see when power is restored. However, if power is restored at 3 o'clock in the morning and you have this in your room, that's going to be a problem. Wyze bulbs are also a hubless design, meaning that each bulb connects itself to your Wi-Fi network, meaning each is its own standalone device. That's both good and bad, mainly in that if you have lots and lots of things on your Wi-Fi network, you could, in theory, slow down your Wi-Fi network. I have not. If you see the list over there of all the things that I've tested, haven't slowed down mine just yet, but you have to be aware of that. Yes, it's easier to, put these in instead of having a smart switch, which I have tested and I will admit was a little trickier than putting in a light bulb. So just keep in mind, no hub, each is a standalone device. Now, the big selling point for all the Wyze stuff, price. So you can pick up a single bulb for $8. I know that sounds like a lot when you compare it to just a regular LED bulb, but remember, this is smarter than an LED bulb and has all these things that it can do. You can also pick up a 4-pack for $40. Keep in mind, when I got this was well over $24. Now, that's Wyze's big selling point. They are, I don't want to say cheap, but they are lower priced than a lot of their competitors. And even with that lower price, you are getting excellent quality. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for a smart bulb and you're looking for something that's not as expensive as others, and you're already in the Wyze ecosystem, it's almost a no-brainer to at least pick up 4 of them to mess around with and see if smart lights are something that you want to do. So I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching.